special tips this morning on falls that are peculiar to summer, and I was talking with Sue a little earlier before we came on the air, and she was telling me about some things that they're really doing to help prevent falls. So Sue, welcome.
Good morning, Yvonne, and it's good to be here on this hot summer day, and I think there's a number of things to think about as we anticipate the continued heat, humidity of being outside.
Right.
It's not that we want to tell people not to be outside, but there's some things that residents really should think about to help prevent those falls outside.
Right.
The heat can really take a lot out of our bodies.
I know. I went to a ball game the other day and it was so hot and I really almost got overheated.
So I think it's really important to make sure that if you know that you're going to be going outside, to hydrate.
Yes.
Water is the best, but water is not the only liquid that I mean, any kind of liquid is very beneficial, so I think if you know that you're going to be outside, just making sure that you're hydrated. And then also encompassed within the whole preventing falls is medications.
Oh.
So to know what the medications that you're on how they might precipitate a feeling of dizziness, a feeling of just being a little bit more fuzzy or groggy, so that when you get outside, you know how you might have to anticipate those feelings in terms
So
of
often
that.
we just take a medication and forget that it does have side effects.
Definitely. So really to know what the side effects of the medications are, in particular how they might play into something that could precipitate a fall.
Right.
And then just thinking about in the summertime, or especially when the weather was starting to get nice and people start spending more time outside. And so you get used to, in the wintertime, the very even surface of the carpet indoors or the tile that we have, and then all of a sudden you go outside.
Right, and there are cracks in the sidewalk.
There are.
Potholes in the road.
And yes, and no matter how much attention our general services pays to it, the weather
That's right.
precipitates cracks, and they're going to be there, and so it's to know ahead of time that you have to be extra special careful.
That's right.
So if you use an assistive device, make sure that you're using that when you're outside, a walker, a cane. Make sure that it fits properly for you.
Actually, I see people who are doing a lot of walking, carrying a walking stick. And that's not a bad idea, a hiking stick.
I agree, yeah. Or there are walking poles.
Yes.
That I've seen a number
Yes.
of people have, and they can be helpful too,
Yes.
because they do give you a little bit more stability.
Right.
And help then with the balance.
Right.
But then also I've seen some outside having people push them on their rollators.
Oh.
So to be careful of that,
That's
because again,
dangerous.
the sidewalks are only so wide, and if you know that you're going to be outside, make sure that you know that you can get from one destination to another
Exactly.
safely without having somebody to push you.
Right, right.
And fortunately, we have a number of benches very nicely placed
Very
to
nicely
be able to help with that.
Yes, yes.
And if you should start feeling just a little odd when you're outside, make sure you find some place to sit. Try to get some water as quickly as possible. Take care of yourself in light of that. Find some shade.
Right, right.
So I think those are some things to think about in the summertime. And I read somewhere that our bodies really do adjust to the surfaces that we walk on a normal basis.
Really?
So if you are, over the wintertime, walking on a nice flat surface, our bodies regulate to that. We regulate pretty quickly. And so then once we go outside and have this little bit uneven ground, it takes time for our bodies to regulate.
That's true.
So you might not feel as comfortable at first, but it does take some time to get used to, sort of like being on a boat.
Right.
When you first get on a boat, it just feels
You
like
don't have your sea legs yet.
Exactly, but you get them.
Yes.
And so it's similar to being outside. You have to get your ground legs as such. And I know you were talking about shoes.
Yes.
Safety in shoes. It's really important to have shoes that are comfortable, to have shoes that, especially being outside, no flip-flops. Really,
People are not going to like to hear that.
I know, and really not shoes that have open backs. Shoes should really be closed backs to maintain that integrity of the shoe on your foot. I know you were saying that you don't feel comfortable with open toes.
Right.
But I think that plays to the idea of knowing your comfort.
Right.
So if you know being open-toed is not a safe option for you, to make sure that you don't have open-toed
Right,
shoes.
right.
And I would encourage most people, if they're going to be outside, to be wearing flat shoes.
Flat
shoes that don't have a good heel on them. Save those for the inside.
Right.
But if you're going to be outside, really have good fitting, nice sturdy shoes that will serve you well on those surfaces.
Right.
And flip-flops shouldn't be worn anytime.
Right.
It just,
You're not going to have friends from that.
I know. Or very short distances with those flip-flops.
Right,
So I think that's important.
Right. You were telling me about some new research they're doing in shoes.
Oh, I was looking up online some of the new things, and there is so much research being done on preventing falls because of the new technology that we have. They're now making sensors, testing them out that people can wear on their body to be able to help tell when they are just a little bit off balance, or when their stride changes, or just a multitude of things. And they're all in the testing stages. Nothing is out there for the consumer consumption. But the other thing they were testing was shoes that have sort of an electronic pulse in the bottom of them, with the idea of stimulating sensation on the bottom of your foot. And that was it gives more feeling of the surface that you're actually walking on, to be able to help prevent falls. So it gives you more contact.
That's interesting.
With the stimulation sensors, sort of like little probes, but gentle enough that it doesn't hurt, but just a little bit to be able to stimulate
Wake
those
up the
sensations.
nerves a little bit.
Yeah, especially as neuropathy or a little bit of numbness sets into to the feet. I think that could help. I think they were particularly looking for those that had difficulties from diabetes. So there is so much research being done on preventing falls, because it's a passion for so many people, and
I can imagine.
It can be so debilitating.
Oh, yes, yes.
And so in thinking about how we can just help prevent, you can't alleviate, you can't eliminate all falls. They are going to happen, but there's so many proactive things that you can do to think about it. Not being so many falls that I hear about are because people are hurrying.
Yes.
They've got somewhere to go, or the telephone is ringing. And they're going to talk a little bit later about the fraud, and half the time it's a telemarketer anyway. So there's no hurry to answer that telephone. So just taking your time in doing most anything. And the other issue then too is getting up quickly.
Yes.
As we get older, everything slows down. So our eyesight doesn't regulate quite as much. We need a little bit more light to be able to see properly. Our blood pressure doesn't regulate quite as quickly. So getting up from bed, getting up from a chair, to just take that time to know that you have your balance and that you're situated enough before you then make the next step.
I had to laugh this morning. I was doing a walk, and I happened to pass two ladies, and they said, "We're just wandering around." I said, "We don't have any children to rush home for." I thought that was priceless because, you know, it's true here. What do we have to rush for?
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
if we are due to a meeting, we should know about how long it takes us to get there on a very nice, calm walk.
Yes. Yeah. And so
So-
to just think ahead enough so
Think
that
ahead.
you know that you don't have to hurry in that way.
Right.
Yeah. And the other thing, just to touch on briefly, is a number of people are traveling
Yes.
this time of year.
Okay.
And so to really think about how to travel safely, making sure that at the very least you always have one hand free. So a lot of times we have a suitcase in one hand, a bag in another hand. Figure out another way to do it so that you always have one hand
Always
free.
have one hand free so you can grab for something if you need to.
Exactly. So that's an important piece. Airports now have become so friendly to those that have difficulty in walking long distances. They have those little shuttle mobiles.
Yes. Uh-huh.
They have wheelchairs that will get you from one destination to another. It's okay. It's okay to use those services.
And so often our pride gets in the way.
But I would much rather have you get to your destination
Right.
safely than to think that somebody is going to judge you for having used that wheelchair.
I think so often of people who almost apologize for using a walker, and I think if it keeps you on your feet and on your way, use it. You know, it's better than not just sitting.
Yes. And they were saying that more people are using walkers now, percentage-wise, than ever before.
Probably because they've realized that it does help them get around.
Yes, and also we have so much easier access to them now
Yes,
too.
yes.
With all the different online services, you can order one right to your front door rather than having to go through a store.
Right.
And the cost of them is relatively inexpensive, so people are really utilizing that benefit.
Right.
And I think you're doing yourself a service. You're
You really
advocating
are. You
for
really are.
yourself, which is what we really look to residents to do, is help yourself.
That's right. Keep yourself active. If it takes a cane or a walker, use it.
Exactly, because one of the first steps in preventing falls is to stay active.
Stay active.
And
Exactly.
it goes back to that use it or lose it.
Right.
To be able to maintain your stability, it's using it walking, going to our fitness center. If you feel that you're a little unsteady, talking to your doctor about having some physical therapy. We have a wonderful
Yes.
outpatient physical therapy department that is more than willing to work with you for a period of time to help you gain that stability. Sort of, sometimes I like to think of it as a tune-up.
A tune-up.
A tune-up, yeah.
good,
I mean, we
yes.
take our cars in every once in a while for a tune-up just to make sure that they are safe on the road.
Right.
But we don't think always of doing that with our bodies. That just like going to the doctor, sometimes our bodies need a little bit of physical tune-up too.
This has been great, Sue. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
And I hope people listen to the flip-flop bit.